These clothes will make women feel good when they wear them. Boy wasn't sure about the idea. But where will you get the cloth for these clothes? He asked. No other designer can get cloth at the moment. We are in the middle of a war, you know. Don't worry about that, said Coco. I'll find the cloth. I just need the money. Money? Said Boy Capel. Oh, no problem. I've got plenty of money. Boy Capel sounded confident, but as he lent more money to Coco, he never really expected to see it again. But Coco's idea was quite right. She found that she could still buy cloth across the border in Spain, which wasn't fighting in the war. Then she rented an expensive house in the middle of the town and hired 60 women to make her new dresses. She sold the dresses for very high prices, but women were happy to pay for them. They were so popular that people even came from Madrid to buy them. For the next 3 years, Coco travelled between her 3 businesses in Paris, Deauville and Biarritz, while the First World War continued in the north and east of France. By 1916, over 300 people were working for her. She soon made so much money that she could pay back Boy Capel all that she had borrowed. Coco had been lucky, because the war had given her a chance to make her new designs popular. But she had also shown that she could recognize business opportunities and that she could change her style to suit her customers. When the war finished, in November 1918, Coco was ready to start the next and most successful part of her business life. The First World War completely changed European society. Millions of young men had been killed, and women now had a much more important position in society. Women had shown that they could work in offices and factories while men were fighting in the war. In many countries, women were now allowed to vote for their government for the first time. By the start of the 1920s, women had realized that they could be different from their mothers. They could lead a very different kind of life from the one they had known before the war. After the bad times of the war, rich young people just wanted to spend money and to have fun. They drove their shiny new cars to the beach, where they played games and swam in the sea. Both men and women went to parties, where they smoked cigarettes and drank alcohol. They danced to the music of Louis Armstrong and Jelly Roll Morton. They went to the cinema to watch the films of Charlie Chaplin and Greta Garbo, and they also wore the clothes of Coco Chanel. Women didn't want to return to the long, tight dresses and silly hats of the years before the war. They wanted clothes that allowed them to move around freely. Chanel's style was just right for the time. But now, her clothes were not just for the women of Paris, Deauville and Biarritz. The end of the war meant that she could sell her clothes around the world. For women in the big cities of Europe, she made smart suits of jackets and skirts. And for women on holiday, she designed special beach clothes. In the US, her dresses were so successful that a magazine even compared them to the Ford motor car. Coco's business grew and grew. But Coco didn't just think about clothes. She realized that women couldn't always wear diamonds and other expensive jewelry when they went out, so she started making jewelry that looked real but was made from cheap materials. She also introduced the idea of short hair for women, and for the first time she made it popular for women to go out in the sun so their skin went brown. But Coco's best decision was to go into the cosmetics business. She knew that the cosmetics business and the fashion industry were similar in many ways, and she was sure that her ideas could help her to be successful in this area. She also believed that cosmetics were very important. She once said, "If a woman doesn't wear perfume, she has no future." So, in the early 1920s, she went to see a man called Pierre Wertheimer to discuss her plan. Wertheimer owned the biggest perfume factory in France, and he was very happy to work with such a famous designer. At that time, women wore perfumes which always smelled of flowers. But Coco wanted her perfume to have a completely different smell. Together, Wertheimer and Chanel invented a new kind of perfume, and they decided to sell it in a simple, square bottle. They agreed to give it Coco's name, and she added her lucky number. The result was Chanel No. 5, the most successful perfume of the past 100 years. As Coco grew richer and more successful, she mixed with the most famous people of the time. She loved to be with artists, and she made clothes for shows at theatres in Paris, where she worked with Jean Cocteau, Pablo Picasso, and Sergei Diaghilev. These people all admired Coco's work and understood what she was trying to do. Coco worked in fashion according to rules that seemed to have value only for painters, musicians, and writers, said Jean Cocteau. But Coco didn't just mix with artists. She often went to parties where she met important people like the future King of England, the Prince of Wales, and Britain's future war leader, Winston Churchill. And after her boyfriend of the war years, Boy Capel, was killed in a car crash, she was often seen on the arm of rich Russian and English lords. For Coco and her friends, the 1920s were the happiest 10 years of the 20th century. But the good times suddenly ended in October 1929, when the stock exchange in Wall Street, New York, crashed. Share prices fell and fell and fell. The world economy was badly damaged. Thousands of businesses closed, and millions of people lost their jobs. For most people, the Wall Street crash was a disaster, but not for Coco Chanel. While ordinary people suffered, the richest people in the world still had money, and they still wanted expensive, fashionable clothes. Instead of making cheaper, simpler clothes, she started to design even more expensive clothes and to use real diamonds in her jewellery. Coco had remembered the lesson of Biarritz. In times of trouble, the secret of success is to help people to forget their problems. In these bad times for the world economy, other successful people remembered the same secret. One of these people was the great Hollywood film producer Sam Goldwyn. As ordinary people in America got poorer and poorer, he realized that they wanted to see films about a different kind of world. They wanted films that showed the wonderful lives of rich, beautiful people. They wanted to go to the cinema and get away from their problems. Goldwyn decided that people in his films should wear the best and the most expensive clothes in the world. And so he went to the top fashion designer in the world, Coco Chanel. Coco understood his idea immediately, and she was interested. "How much will you pay me?" she asked. $1 million, said Goldwyn. With an offer of so much money, how could Coco refuse? She went to Hollywood, she met the film stars, and then she started work on their clothes. Everyone waited to see the results. The first film was called Tomorrow or Never, and its star was Gloria Swanson. In the film, her clothes were beautiful, but they were quite simple. When the film was shown in the US, people were surprised. They had expected something more for $1 million. When an American newspaper wrote about the film, it said, "Chanel wants a lady to look like a lady. Hollywood wants a lady to look like two ladies." Chanel kept the money, but Sam Goldwyn decided not to use her clothes again. Back in Paris, Coco had more problems. The French economy was in a very bad state. People without work wanted jobs, and the people with jobs wanted more money.